My stepsister slapped me, and my husband defended her. They didn't know this restaurant was mine. Watch the elegant revenge of a CEO's wife that left them destitute for life. Amelia adjusted her reflection in the large bedroom mirror. The simple navy dress she wore was modest, almost plain. She had chosen it intentionally. During the 2 years of her marriage to Ethan, Amelia had learned that standing out too much only invited cutting remarks from her mother-in-law, Helen, or snide comments from her stepsister. "Jessica isn't ready yet. Are you, Amelia?" Ethan's voice came from the doorway. He looked sharp in a tailored gray suit, a suit Amelia had secretly bought for him using a fabricated annual bonus she'd invented so he wouldn't get suspicious. "Almost ready, honey," Amelia replied softly, turning around. "How do I look? Is this appropriate for your mom's birthday dinner?" He gave her a flat, passionless glance. "It's fine. The important thing is not to embarrass me. Remember, Jessica is bringing some of her model friends. Don't look like a charity case next to them." The words stung, but Amelia was used to it. She swallowed the hurt and managed a thin smile. "Okay, Ethan." They went down to the living room, where Jessica was already waiting. Jessica, Amelia's stepsister from her father's second marriage, was lounging on the sofa, scrolling through her phone. She wore a striking scarlet dress with a plunging neckline, showcasing her fair skin and glittering jewelry. "Took you long enough," Jessica complained without looking up, her fingers typing furiously. "The reservation at L'Etoile is for 8 o'clock sharp. If we're late, they could give our table away. It's the most exclusive restaurant in Manhattan, you know." Amelia knew. Of course, she knew. L'Etoile was one of the 5 Michelin-starred restaurants under the umbrella of the Grandeur Group, the massive corporation she secretly ran. "Sorry, I was looking for my clutch," Amelia said. Ethan walked over to Jessica. "Ready to go, Jess?" he asked, his tone shifting dramatically from cold to warm and affectionate. Amelia froze as she watched Ethan's hand reach out to smooth a stray lock of Jessica's hair from her shoulder. The gesture was too fluid, too intimate. Jessica didn't pull away. Instead, she tilted her head, enjoying her brother-in-law's touch. "Your hair was caught in your necklace," Ethan said softly. His fingers brushed against the nape of Jessica's neck, lingering for a moment longer than necessary. Amelia's heart pounded. An alarm bell, one she had long tried to silence by telling herself they'd known each other since they were kids, blared in her head. But tonight, under the bright living room lights, the look in Ethan's eyes as he gazed at Jessica held a hunger he had never once shown Amelia. "Let's go," Ethan said, quickly retracting his hand when he realized Amelia was watching. "Mom's already waiting for us." Amelia nodded, clenching her fists by her side. "Patience, Amelia," she told herself. "Tonight is about my mother-in-law's birthday. Don't make a scene without proof." But a wife's intuition is rarely wrong. That evening, L'Etoile was filled with New York City's elite. Crystal chandeliers hung majestically, the melody of a classical piano filled the air, and the subtle, tantalizing aroma of fine French cuisine wafted through the room. When Amelia, Ethan, and Jessica arrived at the VIP table near a large window with a view of the city skyline, Helen was already seated. The middle-aged woman wore a sequined designer gown, her face heavily made up to conceal her wrinkles. "Finally," Helen exclaimed, her eyes lighting up as she saw Jessica, completely ignoring Amelia. "Oh, Jessica, darling, you look absolutely stunning tonight, like a movie star." Jessica kissed Helen's cheek. "Happy birthday, Helen. This is from me, a limited edition designer bag." She handed over a shopping bag from a famous luxury brand. Helen shrieked with delight. "Oh, you always know my taste." Unlike some people, she shot a disdainful look at Amelia. Amelia placed her gift on the table, a fine silk Hermes scarf that had actually cost 3 times as much as Jessica's bag, but came from a quiet luxury brand without a flashy logo. "Happy birthday, Helen. I wish you all the best." Helen picked it up with 2 fingers, as if it were dirty. "Oh, a scarf. The color is so drab. Well, just put it over there." They sat down. The seating arrangement felt odd. Ethan sat next to Jessica. while Amelia sat across from them, next to an empty chair reserved for Helen's shopping bags, directly facing the affectionate display between her husband and her stepsister. A waiter in a crisp uniform approached with menus. As he saw Amelia, his eyes widened slightly. He recognized her. She was the big boss, the owner whose photograph was displayed in the central staff training facility. Though she rarely appeared in daily operations, everyone knew her face. Amelia subtly placed a single finger to her lips, a silent, clear command. "Stay quiet. Treat me like a regular guest." The professionally trained waiter gave a nearly imperceptible nod and distributed the menus. "I'll have the escargots and the A5 Wagyu," Jessica announced loudly, without even glancing at the menu. "And the most expensive bottle of wine from this year's vintage." "You have such high-class taste, Jessica," Ethan praised her, then looked at his own menu in confusion, as everything was in French. "Amelia, what are you getting? Don't order anything weird you won't finish." "I'll have the coq au vin and a sparkling water, please," Amelia answered calmly. She knew the head chef tonight, Chef André, made the best coq au vin in the city. "Ugh, ordering something as basic as braised chicken here," Jessica sneered with a little laugh. "Amelia's taste is so simple, isn't it, Ethan? Even when you take her to a fancy place." Ethan chuckled along with her, a sound that crushed Amelia's heart. "That's just how she is, Jess. It's hard to change old habits." Under the table, Amelia felt her legs tremble with suppressed rage. Not because she was insulted, but because her own husband joined in the mockery to please another woman. She looked at Ethan intently. "Have you forgotten, Ethan? Who paid off your gambling debts last month? Who is making the payments on that car you're so proud of?" The meal tasted like ash in Amelia's mouth. Though the food was perfect, her eyes kept catching small gestures. Jessica's knee brushing against Ethan's thigh under the table, the way Ethan poured wine into Jessica's glass, with an adoring smile. It was as if they had forgotten she was there, or perhaps they simply didn't care. The atmosphere grew warmer for the three of them, and icier for Amelia. Jessica, slightly tipsy from the wine, began speaking louder, her gestures becoming more animated as she recounted stories from a recent photo shoot. "Waiter!" Jessica called out sharply. "I need more of that sauce. The first one wasn't spicy enough." A young waiter hurried over with a small bowl of dark red sauce. As he was about to place it on the table, Jessica, laughing at her own joke, suddenly slammed her hand on the table for emphasis. The jolt startled the waiter. The sauce bowl slipped. Splat. The thick red liquid landed right on the sleeve of Jessica's scarlet dress, spattering a little onto her face. A hush fell over the table for a split second. "Arg!" Jessica shrieked, jumping to her feet. "My dress! This is an expensive rental, you idiot. Are you blind?" she yelled at the waiter, who was now trembling with fear. Amelia, seated across from her, instinctively grabbed her napkin to help. "Jessica, calm down. Let me help you clean it." She reached her hand across the table to wipe Jessica's sleeve. "Don't you touch me!" Jessica snapped, swatting Amelia's hand away harshly. The motion was so forceful that Jessica's nails scratched the back of Amelia's hand, but she wasn't finished. Her anger, likely mixed with years of pent-up jealousy, exploded. "This is your fault, isn't it? You probably put your glass there on purpose so the waiter couldn't get by. You're just jealous because your mother-in-law likes me more." "Jessica, it was an accident," Amelia tried to say calmly, though her heart was racing. Slap. The sound was shockingly loud, cutting through the gentle piano music. The entire restaurant turned to look. Amelia's head whipped to the side. A searing heat spread across her left cheek, stinging and painful. Jessica had just slapped her. In public, in her own restaurant. Amelia stood frozen, her hand slowly rising to touch her reddening cheek. Her eyes were dry. She did not cry. She stared straight at Ethan, her husband, her hope. "Ethan," she whispered. But what she saw next shattered the last remnants of love she had for him. Ethan didn't stand up to defend her. He didn't scold Jessica. Instead, he leaped from his chair, wrapped his arm around Jessica's heaving shoulders, and glared at Amelia. "Amelia, look what you've done," Ethan barked. "Because you were careless and didn't give the waiter room," Jessica got upset. "Look, she's shaking." "What?" Amelia gaped, unable to believe what she was hearing. "She slapped me, Ethan. She's the one who's wrong." "Oh, stop whining about a little slap," Helen chimed in, busy dabbing at Jessica's dress with a tissue. "You're the older sister. You should be more mature. Jessica is a model. Her face and her appearance are her assets. If she gets stressed, it could ruin her career. You're just a housewife. A little bruise on your face doesn't matter." Amelia's world collapsed. What kind of logic was this? Her husband was comforting the woman who had just physically assaulted her, and her mother-in-law was blaming her. Around them, other patrons began to whisper. Some pulled out their phones, recording the scene. "Get her out of here, Ethan," Jessica whined from within Ethan's embrace, pointing at Amelia. "I don't want to eat with her. She's bad luck." Ethan sighed, then looked at Amelia with cold indifference. "Amelia, you should probably just go home. Take an Uber. Don't embarrass the family here." Amelia looked at Ethan. Her gaze was empty, cold, and final. The pain in her cheek was gone, replaced by a terrible clarity. The mask of the obedient wife had cracked, and from behind it, the queen was beginning to awaken. "Fine," Amelia said quietly. "If that's what you all want." The commotion could no longer be ignored. The double doors at the end of the room swung open. A middle-aged man, in an impeccable black suit, with a golden name tag that read, "Mr. Davis, General Manager," walked briskly toward their table, followed by two burly security guards. Jessica smirked, satisfied at the manager's arrival. She pulled away from Ethan and placed her hands on her hips. "Well, finally the manager shows up," she said haughtily. "Sir, I want to file a complaint. Your waiter spilled food on my dress, and this country bumpkin," she gestured at Amelia, "caused a scene. Throw her out right now, or I'll make this place go viral for all the wrong reasons." Ethan stood up, trying to look authoritative. "I'm her husband, sir. I apologize for the disturbance. I'll ask my wife to leave." Mr. Davis, a man known for his stern demeanor, stopped directly in front of their table. His face was pale, a bead of sweat on his temple. But his eyes were not on Jessica or Ethan. They were fixed on Amelia, who was still sitting calmly, holding her red cheek. Ignoring Jessica's tirade, Mr. Davis did something that made Ethan's and Helen's jaws drop. He bowed deeply from the waist, a full 90-degree angle of profound respect directly in front of Amelia. "Good evening, Madam President." Mr. Davis's voice trembled slightly but was heard clearly in the now silent restaurant. "I offer my sincerest apologies for our staff's failure to protect your safety and comfort on your own property." Jessica let out an awkward, shrill laugh. "Huh? Are you delirious, sir? She's just a housewife. An unemployed nobody named Amelia, not some president." Mr. Davis straightened up and leveled a gaze at Jessica so sharp it made her flinch. "Watch your tone, miss. You are in the presence of Miss Amelia Hayes, the sole owner of the Grandeur Group, which oversees this restaurant and 50 other five-star hotels across North America and Europe." Ethan staggered backward, bumping into a chair. "What? The Grandeur Group? Amelia, what is he talking about?" Amelia slowly stood up. Her aura of simplicity vanished instantly. She no longer looked like an obedient wife. She stood tall, her chin held high, her eyes radiating an authority she had long concealed. She took a napkin and elegantly dabbed the corner of her mouth. "Mr. Davis," Amelia's voice was calm, but so cold it seemed to drop the temperature around the table. "Yes, Madam President," Mr. Davis responded, instantly. "Are the security cameras in this area functional, including the audio?" "Perfectly, ma'am. 4K resolution." "Good. Save the footage. Do not let a single second be deleted." Amelia then turned to Ethan, Jessica, and Helen, who were all frozen with stunned, idiotic expressions. She smiled faintly, a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Why so quiet? A moment ago, You were all so eager to send me home. Amelia, Ethan stammered, trying to take her hand. You're joking, right? Why did you never tell me that you... Amelia pulled her hand away, avoiding his touch, as if it were diseased. If I had told you I was wealthy, would you have stopped your affair with my stepsister? Would your mother have stopped insulting me? Helen trembled. Amelia, dear, I was just kidding earlier. Jessica, still refusing to accept defeat, tried to lash out. Please. She's probably just the real owner's mistress. There's no way an orphan like you could own a company this big. Amelia didn't get angry. She looked at Jessica with pity. Mr. Davis, she called again. Yes, ma'am. Is there a policy in this restaurant about ejecting guests who commit physical assault? Yes, ma'am. A lifetime ban. Ethan turned pale. Amelia, don't. We're family. Amelia stared at him. Family? Family doesn't slap each other. Family doesn't stand by silently while their wife is humiliated. Amelia picked up her handbag. But I won't have you thrown out tonight. Enjoy your meal. It's on me. Consider it your last supper. Amelia walked out of L'Etoile with a steady stride. At the front entrance, a valet rushed to open the door of a luxurious black sedan that was already waiting the company car she typically only used for discreet board meetings. Behind her, she could hear a faint commotion. Ethan was probably trying to follow her, but security would be holding him back, standard procedure for protecting a VIP. As the car glided through the streets of Manhattan, Amelia leaned her head against the soft leather seat. Her defenses crumbled for a moment. Tears streamed down her face, one after another. Not because of Jessica's slap, but because of the utter destruction of the illusion she had built. She had married Ethan thinking he was a simple, sincere man. She had hidden her wealth because she wanted to be loved for who she was, not for the inheritance from her grandfather. But it turned out that sincerity never existed. Amelia's phone buzzed incessantly. Dozens of missed calls from my husband and mother-in-law. She silenced it and turned the screen face down. "Home, Miss Hayes?" asked her personal driver, Frank, who had worked for her for years. "No, Frank. To the penthouse on the Upper East Side. I won't be going back to that house tonight," Amelia replied, her voice hoarse but firm. Amelia took a deep breath and wiped her tears away. Sadness was only allowed for 5 minutes. After that, logic had to take over. She recalled the look in Ethan's eyes, his touch on Jessica's shoulder, the way he had fiercely defended her. It wasn't just a protective brother-in-law. There was something far more rotten underneath. Her sharp business instincts, the very instincts that had allowed her to grow her grandfather's company into a massive empire, began to piece the puzzle together. Amelia took out her secure work phone from a hidden compartment in her bag and dialed a number. "Hello, Miss Hayes. How can I help you tonight?" a man's deep voice answered. It was Ricky, her head of security and a former intelligence operative she often used for corporate investigations. "Ricky, I need you to run a personal investigation, starting tonight." "Who are the targets, ma'am?" "Ethan Miller, my husband, and Jessica Cole, my stepsister." Amelia paused, swallowing the bitter taste in her mouth. "I want their call histories, credit card transactions, vehicle GPS records for the last 3 months, and access to the security cameras in Jessica's apartment, if possible." "Understood, ma'am. The preliminary report will be on your desk tomorrow morning." "One more thing, Ricky." "Yes, ma'am? Make it clean. I want to destroy them, but I want to do it slowly, like a game of chess." "Consider it done, ma'am." The call ended. Amelia stared out the car window at the glittering skyscrapers of New York City. One of the tallest buildings belonged to her. "You started a war with the wrong person," Amelia murmured. "You woke a sleeping queen." That night, Amelia did not return to the modest rental house in Queens she shared with Ethan. She returned to her throne, and tomorrow the real game would begin. The morning sun streamed through the gaps in the curtains of Amelia's penthouse, but its warmth couldn't thaw the ice in her heart. She had slept for less than 3 hours, spending the rest of the night reading Ricky's initial report. It was incomplete, but it was enough to form an initial strategy. Amelia showered, put on casual clothes, not her usual power suits, and prepared to slip back into her old role, the role of an ordinary wife. She had to go back to that rental house. If she disappeared now, Ethan and Jessica would become suspicious. She wanted them off guard. She wanted them to feel secure before she pulled the rug out from under them. At 9 a.m., the taxi Amelia had called dropped her off in front of the small, single-family house in Queens. It was a painful contrast to the lavish apartment she had woken up in. The house's paint was peeling, and the lawn was overgrown because Ethan was too lazy to mow it. Amelia opened the front door. It was quiet, but the smell of burnt toast hung in the air. "Amelia, you're back." Ethan appeared from the living room. His face was haggard, his eyes puffy from lack of sleep. He was still in a t-shirt and shorts. Upon seeing Amelia, his expression shifted into a mixture of relief and fear. He rushed toward her, about to embrace her, but stopped when he saw her cold gaze. He lowered his arms awkwardly. "I was so worried about you, Amelia. You didn't answer your phone last night." "My mom was worried too," Ethan said, his voice artificially gentle. Amelia placed her bag on the sofa, ignoring his pleasantries. "I needed some space, Ethan. After being slapped in public, I think it's reasonable to want some time alone." Ethan swallowed hard. "About that, Jessica is really sorry. She wasn't herself. You know how much pressure models are under. She promised she'd apologize." He paused, his eyes darting around nervously. "By the way, about what that manager, Mr. Davis, said, that you're a president. That was a mistake, right? Or some kind of prank?" Amelia stared at her husband. She saw genuine panic in his eyes. He was afraid of losing his source of income, or worse, afraid to realize he had been underestimating a giant all this time. Amelia decided to play in the gray area. Confusing the enemy was the best tactic. "It's work stuff you never asked about, Ethan," Amelia replied flatly. "All this time, you just knew I had an office job. You never asked for details, did you? You only cared that my paycheck hit our joint account." Ethan's jaw dropped. "So it's true? The Grandeur Group, it was your grandfather's?" "A portion was inherited. The rest was hard work," Amelia answered ambiguously, then walked toward the bedroom. "I'm going to rest. Don't disturb me. And tell your mother not to even think about coming here today, unless she wants to be escorted out by security." Ethan was frozen in place. He didn't dare yell. The power dynamic in the house had shifted overnight. Before, Ethan had felt superior because he was the man, the one in charge. Now, he realized he was just a passenger on a ship his wife owned. But instead of being grateful or offering a sincere apology, Amelia could see the gears turning in Ethan's calculating eyes. His cunning mind was already at work. "If my wife is rich, that means I'm rich too. Make me some soup for lunch, Ethan." "My head is pounding," Amelia ordered before closing the bedroom door. She wanted to see just how low he would stoop for money. "Yes, Amelia." "Of course," Ethan replied quickly. Too quickly. Behind the locked door, Amelia wasn't resting. She put in an earbud connected to a listening app Ricky had activated on Ethan's phone while he slept. Ricky had slipped in and out of the house easily, thanks to a spare key Amelia had provided. The game had begun. 2 days passed in a strange, tense truce. Ethan was sickeningly sweet. He made her breakfast, massaged her feet, and never mentioned Jessica. But Amelia knew it was all an act. That afternoon, Amelia said she had a meeting. Ethan nodded obediently, but the moment Amelia's car turned the corner, a GPS notification pinged on her phone. Ethan's car was on the move, not toward his office, but toward a condo building on the west side, Jessica's building. Amelia parked her car at a quiet cafe, ordered a black coffee, and opened her laptop. Ricky had already managed to hack into the smart home system in Jessica's apartment, including the pet cam in her living room. On the laptop screen, the image was clear. Jessica was pacing, smoking a cigarette, a habit she hid from the public. Ethan entered, still in his work clothes. "What took you so long?" Jessica snapped as soon as he was inside, throwing a sofa pillow at him. "My agency just blocked my accounts. My contracts have been suspended. They said it was an order from the top. This has to be the work of your power-tripping wife." Ethan caught the pillow and approached Jessica, his face weary but filled with desire. "Calm down, Jess. Don't yell." "How can I be calm? My car payment is due tomorrow, and my credit cards are maxed out." Jessica plopped down on the sofa. "You said you could control Amelia. You said she was just a dumb cash cow. How did she suddenly become a president and I'm the one who's ruined?" A tightness gripped Amelia's chest at the term cash cow, so that's what she was in their eyes. Not a wife, not a sister, but livestock to be milked dry. Amelia gripped her laptop's mouse tightly. "Listen to me," Ethan said, sitting next to Jessica and taking her hands. "This is our opportunity. Amelia is ridiculously rich. Her assets are probably in the billions. If we play this right, we can get a huge piece of it." "What do you mean?" Jessica asked, her eyes narrowing. "She's angry now, but Amelia's a sucker for me. She's never had a boyfriend besides me. She's weak when it comes to affection," Ethan said with nauseating confidence. "I'll win her back. I'll be the perfect husband. Slowly, I'll ask for access to company accounts or for shares in my name as a gift." Jessica scoffed, but then a sly smile spread across her face. "And what about me? I'm blacklisted everywhere because of her. Once Amelia's softened up, I'll convince her to lift the blacklist. Better yet, I'll get her to make you the new face of the Grandeur Group. Imagine it, Jess. You'll be the queen of the modeling world." Ethan pulled Jessica into his arms. "We just need to be a little patient. As soon as I have control of her fortune, we'll kick her to the curb. We can live in luxury together without having to hide anymore." "Promise?" Jessica whispered, resting her head on his chest. "I promise, baby." And then they kissed a kiss filled with lust and greed. Amelia slammed her laptop shut. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and a wave of nausea washed over her. It wasn't disgust from seeing the act itself, but from the realization of how foolish she had been for 2 years. She had been sleeping next to a venomous snake. "Ethan," Amelia hissed at the dark screen, "you think you're the player? You're wrong. You're just a pawn, and pawns are always the first to be sacrificed." Amelia picked up her phone and sent a short text to Ricky. "Initiate phase 2. Start cutting off their oxygen." Her strategy was simple. Make them feel poor, but give them the false hope that it was only temporary. The next day, Ethan took Amelia to lunch at an expensive seafood restaurant, not one owned by the Grandeur Group, of course. He wanted to show off that he had his own money, trying to project an image of an independent husband. The meal was relatively normal. Ethan chattered about a fake project at his office. Amelia knew he'd actually just received a warning for his frequent absences, but she said nothing. When the check came, Ethan grandly produced his platinum credit card, a supplementary card whose bills were automatically paid from Amelia's account. The waiter returned, looking uncomfortable. "I'm sorry, sir. The card was declined." Ethan's face flushed. "What? That's impossible. Try it again. Your machine must be broken." The waiter tried again. Same result. "Still declined, sir. The message says, blocked by issuer." Panic set in. He pulled out a second card. Same thing. A cold sweat broke out on his forehead. He glanced at Amelia, who was calmly sipping her iced tea. "What's wrong, honey? Is there a problem with the cards?" she asked innocently. Yeah. This is so weird." "I know I still have a high limit," Ethan mumbled. "Amelia, do you have any cash or a card?" Amelia shook her head slowly. "I left my wallet in the car. Besides, you were the one who invited me. You said it was your treat." Ethan was cornered. His pride was shattered in front of the waiter and the curious glances from the neighboring table. He ended up having to call a friend to borrow money via a cash app, making up an excuse about a lost wallet. It was humiliating. In the car on the way home, Ethan called the bank, his voice full of anger. He put it on speaker since he was driving. "I'm sorry, Mr. Miller," the customer service representative's voice said clearly. the primary cardholder, Miss Amelia Hayes, has requested a temporary freeze on all supplementary cards due to suspected fraudulent activity and a pending financial audit. Ethan swerved, nearly hitting the curb as he whipped his head toward Amelia. Audit? Fraudulent activity? What does that mean, Amelia? Amelia put on a perfectly confused expression. Oh, that. My company's accountant mentioned some strange expenses under the family category yesterday. He recommended a temporary freeze while they conduct an audit. It's just standard procedure, honey. You know how strict management has been since that incident at the restaurant. But this means I can't access any money, Ethan protested. It's only temporary, Ethan. A week or two at most. Besides, you have your own salary. Surely that's enough, right? Amelia shot back. Ethan fell silent. His own salary was already gone, spent on online sports betting and a piece of jewelry for Jessica last week. Without Amelia's credit cards, he was completely broke. Just then, Ethan's phone rang. Jessica appeared on the car's Bluetooth display. Ethan quickly rejected the call. Just answer it, honey. It might be important, Amelia said. No, it's just a telemarketer, Ethan lied. The phone rang again, and again. Finally, Ethan answered with an irritated tone. Hello? Jessica's frantic, loud voice filled the car. Ethan, my car was just repossessed. They pulled me over and left me on the side of the highway. They said I'm 3 months behind on payments and that all the transfers from your account bounced. Ethan, help me! This is so humiliating. Everyone is staring. Ethan's face went white. He had forgotten that the auto debit for Jessica's car payments was also linked to an account funded by Amelia. Wrong number, he said frantically, and hung up. Silence. Amelia stared straight ahead at the road. That poor woman. Sounds like some girl's sugar daddy left her high and dry. Ethan gripped the steering wheel so hard his knuckles turned white. He couldn't defend Jessica without exposing himself. He was trapped, and Amelia was savoring every second of it. A week later, the financial pressure was making Ethan and Jessica more desperate. Ethan started stealing small pieces of Amelia's jewelry to sell, which, of course, Amelia already knew. She had intentionally placed convincing replicas in her jewelry box. But today was the day the game turned from painful to lethal. Ricky came to Amelia's office on the 40th floor of the Grandeur Tower. He handed her a thick manila envelope. This is the result of the medical surveillance, ma'am, Ricky said, his tone serious. He wasn't smiling. He knew the contents of the envelope would break his boss's heart, no matter how strong she appeared. Amelia opened it slowly. Inside were photos of Jessica leaving an OB/GYN clinic. There was also a copy of a medical record that Ricky had somehow obtained. Patient: Jessica Cole. Diagnosis: Gravida, pregnant. Gestational age: 7 to 8 weeks. Amelia's hands trembled, not from fear, but from the tidal wave of emotions crashing against her chest. 8 weeks. 2 months ago, Amelia had been on a week-long business trip to London to finalize a hotel acquisition. So, in their marital bed, while Amelia was working hard for their family's future, Ethan and Jessica had been together. And now, there was a child that should have been hers and Ethan's, a child they had been trying for without success. It turned out Ethan was fertile, and so was Jessica. This betrayal had created a new life. Amelia felt sick. She ran to the private bathroom in her office and emptied the contents of her stomach. She allowed herself to cry. Just for 5 minutes, the last tears she would ever shed for her dead marriage. She splashed water on her face and looked in the mirror. She was pale, but her eyes burned with a cold fire. There was no more pity. No more, but we're family. The existence of that fetus changed everything. This was no longer about an affair. It was about a future battle for her inheritance. If that child was born and Ethan acknowledged it, they would use it to claim a stake in her fortune, tying her forever to this parasitic family. Amelia walked out of the bathroom and sat back down in her executive chair. "Ricky," she called. "Yes, ma'am." Prepare the company's annual gala for next week. Grand ballroom at the Plaza Hotel. Amelia smiled, a terrifying smile. The theme will be honesty and integrity. And make sure the main projector is the largest, highest resolution screen we can get. I want every pore on those traitors' faces to be visible when I destroy them. Understood, ma'am. Invitations will be sent out tomorrow. Amelia picked up the ultrasound photo from the envelope. You wanted a life of luxury. Fine. I'll give you the most luxurious stage for your downfall. That evening, Amelia came home with an expensive pizza and several shopping bags. She entered the house with a bright expression, as if she had just won the lottery. Ethan was slouched on the sofa, watching TV with a gloomy face. He had just had a huge fight with Jessica over the phone because he couldn't send her money. She had been evicted from her condo and was now living in a tiny, cheap room. "Honey, I have great news," Amelia chirped. Ethan turned, suspicious but hopeful. "What news? Is the audit over? Are the credit cards working again?" Amelia sat next to him, placing the bags on the sofa. "Even better, the audit is finished, and the results were excellent. The company had a banner year." Ethan's eyes lit up. "Seriously? So? And I realize, Ethan, that I've been too hard on you and Jessica," Amelia said, her voice filled with feigned regret. "That incident at the restaurant was just a misunderstanding. I think Jessica must be stressed from work. And you, as her brother-in-law, were just trying to protect her. It's natural." Ethan could hardly believe his luck. His stupid, naive wife was back. "Yes, Amelia, that's it exactly. I just didn't want a scene. You understand, right?" Amelia nodded enthusiastically. "That's why I want to make it up to you both. Next week is the Grandeur Group's annual gala. All our business partners, the media, investors, everyone will be there. I want you and Jessica to come." "The gala?" Ethan sat up straight. "Yes, and not just as guests." Amelia lowered her voice as if sharing a state secret. "I'm planning on announcing a new board member. I need someone I can trust in the director of operations position. The salary, well, it's enough to buy a new sports car every month." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. Director, sports cars, power. It was a dream come true. You're going to appoint me? Who else can I trust but my own husband?" Amelia said, taking his hand. "And for Jessica, I know she's been blacklisted, but as the owner, I can override that. I want to make her the new face of the company for our new resort campaign in the Caribbean. A 5-year exclusive contract. It's worth millions." Ethan felt like falling to his knees in gratitude not to God, but to his wife's stupidity. His and Jessica's plan had worked. Amelia had completely caved. "Amelia, you're incredible. I promise I'll work so hard. I'm going to tell Jessica right now. She'll be thrilled. Go ahead, honey. Tell her to buy the most beautiful gown she can find. She can use my credit card. I've reactivated it. The limit is unlimited. Just for tonight through the gala." Ethan grabbed his phone and ran to the backyard to call Jessica. Amelia could faintly hear his triumphant shouts. "Jess, we won! We're rich! You're going to be the new brand ambassador. Amelia is so stupid. She's giving us everything." Amelia sat alone in the dim living room. She took a slice of pizza and bit into it slowly. They had taken the bait. The hook was set. Now, all she had to do was reel them in, slowly, toward the slaughterhouse. They thought they were being invited to a coronation. They had no idea they were the guests of honor at their own execution. Amelia looked at the calendar on the wall. 7 days. 7 days until doomsday for Ethan Miller and Jessica Cole. That night, the grand ballroom of the Plaza Hotel was transformed into an ocean of opulence. A massive crystal chandelier cast a golden glow over the room, which was adorned with white lilies and deep crimson silk, the corporate colors of the Grandeur Group. The guest list was the crème de la crème of New York society: business tycoons, A-list celebrities, government officials, and elite socialites. A live orchestra played softly, creating an atmosphere of undeniable elegance. A long black limousine pulled up to the main entrance. A uniformed doorman opened the door, and out stepped Ethan, Jessica, and Helen. Ethan looked dashing in a custom-tailored Italian tuxedo that cost more than an average person's annual salary. His hair was slicked back, his face beaming with an aura of false success. On his arm was Jessica. She wore a tight, silver sequined evening gown by a famous designer, with clever draping around the abdomen to conceal the slight swell of her 9-week pregnancy. She walked with her chin held high, waving to the cluster of photographers on the red carpet. She felt tonight was her rebirth as a star. Behind them, Helen strutted arrogantly in a gold sequined gown that was almost blinding. She was busy greeting her socialite friends. "Brenda, Susan," Helen called out loudly to a group of women holding champagne flutes. "Helen, I'm surprised to see you at such a high-profile event," Brenda said, a hint of condescension in her tone. "Oh, of course I'm here," Helen replied, fanning herself with a feather fan. "Tonight, my daughter-in-law, Amelia, is appointing my son Ethan as the director of operations, and my beautiful Jessica will be the new brand ambassador. We're the core family of the Grandeur Group, you know." Her friends exchanged surprised glances. "Wow, that's amazing. We heard you two had a falling out after that incident at the restaurant." "Oh, that's just a silly rumor," Ethan interjected, joining them and putting an arm around his mother. "Just a little bump in the road. Amelia loves me deeply. She can't live without me." "It's true," Jessica added with a sweet smile. "Amelia realized that I'm the perfect face to represent the company. We are family, after all." While they were busy boasting in the lobby, Amelia stood watching from the mezzanine level overlooking the ballroom. She wore a deep, black velvet gown with a high neckline that made her look both regal and intimidating. She wore no flashy jewelry, only a single diamond brooch in the shape of a phoenix on her chest. "They're enjoying their moment, ma'am," whispered Ricky, who stood a step behind her. "Let them fly as high as they can, Ricky," Amelia replied, her gaze fixed on Ethan laughing boisterously below. "The higher they fly, the more bones they'll break when they fall." Amelia checked her watch. 7:30 p.m. "It's showtime," she murmured. She turned and walked toward the backstage area, her footsteps echoing like a death knell for her husband and stepsister. The event began with an opening speech from a famous MC. The atmosphere was lively but orderly. Waiters moved silently, serving hors d'oeuvres of foie gras and caviar. Ethan, Jessica, and Helen sat at the head VIP table, right in front of the stage. The table was set for 8, but Amelia had deliberately left the other seats empty so that the entire room's focus would eventually fall on just the 3 of them. "This is insane, Ethan," Jessica whispered, her eyes sparkling as she looked around. "Every important person is here. Once they announce me as the new face, endorsement deals will be lined up for years." "Just relax, Jess. This is only the beginning," Ethan replied, squeezing her hand under the table. "Once I'm in charge of operations, we can buy our own penthouse." They felt untouchable. The house lights dimmed. A single spotlight hit the center of the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen," the MC's voice boomed, "please give a warm welcome to the president and sole owner of the Grandeur Group, Miss Amelia Hayes." A thunderous applause filled the room. The center stage doors opened, and Amelia walked out gracefully. Her commanding presence was so powerful that the room fell silent. She approached the podium, looking out at the thousands of eyes watching her. Ethan clapped the loudest, puffing out his chest with pride, as if he were the one responsible for her success. "Good evening." Amelia's voice was calm, clear, and sharp. "Thank you for joining us to celebrate our company's success. Tonight is a special night, a night about honesty, integrity, and the future." Amelia looked directly at the VIP table. Many people ask, what is the secret to the Grandeur Group's success? The answer is simple. You cut out the rot so the tree can flourish. The audience nodded in appreciation, assuming it was a business metaphor. Ethan and Jessica nodded along, oblivious. "Tonight, I want to introduce the people who have been most instrumental in my personal life, Amelia continued, a mysterious smile on her lips. They are my family, my husband, Ethan Miller, and my sister, Jessica Cole. Please, come up to the stage. Ethan's heart hammered with excitement. He stood, buttoned his tuxedo, and offered his hand to Jessica. They walked to the stage amidst polite applause. Below, Helen dabbed at fake tears of joy, ready to receive congratulations. Ethan and Jessica stood beside Amelia. Ethan tried to put his arm around her waist, but Amelia sidestepped deftly toward the podium, leaving his arm hanging awkwardly in midair. Ethan will be filling a crucial new position, Amelia said into the microphone, and Jessica will be the face of our newest campaign, titled Hidden Truths. Thank you, darling, Ethan whispered, near the mic, hoping to sound romantic. I'm ready to dedicate my life to this. Excellent, Amelia replied. Because before the contracts are signed, I'd like to play a short profile video. A video showcasing your incredible dedication and chemistry. Amelia gestured to the operator in the back. Roll the video. Ethan and Jessica beamed at the massive 30 by 15-foot LED screen behind them, expecting a glamorous photo montage. The screen lit up, but instead of orchestral music, there was the sound of static, followed by heavy, breathy sighs. Ethan's smile began to fade. The image on the screen sharpened. It wasn't a photo studio, it was CCTV footage from an apartment living room. The date stamp in the corner was from 2 weeks ago. On the giant screen, Ethan and Jessica were on the sofa. Jessica was smoking. Their voices were crystal clear, amplified by the concert-grade sound system. Ethan, you have to keep seducing that stupid wife of yours. Jessica's voice in the video was coarse and grating, a stark contrast to her carefully crafted image. I need money to pay off your gambling debts, too, you know. The entire ballroom gasped. A stunned silence fell over the room. On stage, Jessica's face was ashen. She opened her mouth to scream, but her microphone had been cut. The video continued. It showed Ethan pulling Jessica into his arms and kissing her, not a brotherly kiss, but the passionate kiss of lovers. Relax, Jess. Ethan's voice boomed from the screen. Amelia is easy to fool. A little affection, and she'll give me anything. Once her assets are in my name, we'll kick her to the curb. Then we can get married for real. The gasps turned into murmurs of disgust. The flashes of cameras from the press pit became a frenzy, no longer capturing glamour, but the panicked faces of the two traitors on stage. Turn it off! Turn it off! Ethan screamed hysterically, waving at the operator, who simply stared back at him, arms crossed. Amelia stood calmly at the podium, watching the screen as if it were a nature documentary. The scene changed. This time, it was a medical document, zoomed in to maximum clarity, an ultrasound photo of a fetus. Patient name, Jessica Cole. Alleged biological father, Ethan Miller. Gestational age, 9 weeks. Large text appeared beneath it in blood-red font. Congratulations to my stepsister on her pregnancy. With my husband. Boom. The truth detonated in the room. Jessica shrieked, covering her face with her hands. Her legs gave out, and she collapsed onto the stage floor, her expensive silver gown now a mockery. Ethan stumbled backward, his face a deathly pallor. He looked at Amelia with pleading eyes. Amelia, this is fake. It's a deep fake. Someone set us up. Amelia brought her lips back to the microphone, her voice calm but resonating with power. Fake? Ethan, that video was taken by the pet cam you set up yourself to watch Jessica's cat and forgot to turn off. And that ultrasound? Jessica's OB-GYN is a tenant in one of my buildings. She turned to the audience. Ladies and gentlemen, here they are. The director and brand ambassador you've been waiting for. A husband who cheats with his own sister-in-law, impregnates her while legally married, and plots to steal the assets of the wife who has supported him all along. Whore! A socialite shouted from the middle rows. Her cry triggered a wave of mass condemnation. Parasite! Disgusting! Incest! A water bottle flew from the crowd, landing at Ethan's feet. The situation was devolving into chaos. Their reputations, built over a lifetime, were obliterated in less than 5 minutes. In the midst of their breakdown, Amelia raised her right hand. Instantly, 4 men in sharp black suits walked onto the stage. They were her top corporate lawyers. One of them, Mr. Harrison, carried a stack of red folders. He handed one to a trembling Ethan and tossed another into the lap of Jessica, who was still weeping on the floor. "What's this?" Ethan stammered. Amelia explained. "That is a divorce petition. I am filing for divorce on grounds of adultery and fraud. All the video evidence has already been submitted to the court this morning. But our assets." Ethan tried to negotiate, his parasitic instincts still kicking in. "Read page 12, Ethan." Amelia cut him off sharply. "According to the prenuptial agreement you signed without reading because you were too busy playing games on your phone in the event of infidelity, the cheating party leaves the marriage with 0 marital assets. You will walk out of my house tonight with nothing but the clothes on your back." Ethan felt his knees buckle. He fell to his knees. "Amelia, please, forgive me. It was a mistake. I swear, I love you." Save the drama. Amelia turned her gaze to Jessica. "And as for you, Jessica." Jessica looked up, her eyes red, mascara streaking down her face like a ghost. "You are in breach of the exclusive talent contract you signed last week with my new management company. It contains a morality clause. With this adultery scandal, you are required to pay a penalty of $5 million in cash within 30 days. $5 million? Jessica's eyes bulged. "Amelia, I don't have that kind of money. Are you crazy? I'm your sister." Amelia laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "A sister doesn't slap her sister in public. A sister doesn't sleep with her sister's husband. You are not my sister. You are just a stranger who owes me money," Mr. Harrison added. "Furthermore, Mrs. Helen Miller is also being sued for slander and fraudulent use of supplementary credit cards. The total material damages to be repaid are $50,000. Below the stage, Helen, hearing her name, clutched her chest, gasping for breath not from a heart attack, but a panic attack at the thought of jail and poverty. "Get them out of here," Amelia commanded the security team, who now flanked the stage. "They are polluting the air in this room." The humiliation wasn't over. The most shameful scene occurred as Ethan and Jessica were dragged off the stage by security. They weren't taken through a back exit but were marched down the center aisle of the ballroom, through the jeering crowd. It was a true walk of shame. "Let go of me! I'm the owner's husband! I'm the director!" Ethan screamed, but his voice was drowned out by the boos of the guests. Meanwhile, Helen tried to slip out a side door, hiding her face with her handbag. But her path was blocked by Brenda and her socialite friends. "Where are you going, Helen?" Brenda asked with a sharp, cruel smile. "Oh, I have a stomachache," Helen stammered. "Don't be in such a hurry. We just got an update in our Diamond Circle group chat," Brenda said, showing her phone. "The chairwoman just had you removed from the club. And, oh yes, all those membership dues you're 3 months behind on, they need to be paid by tomorrow. We don't want to be associated with a family of criminals. One more thing," another friend added. "Lose our numbers. We're ashamed to have ever known someone who would let their son commit adultery with his own sister-in-law. It's vile." They turned their backs on her, leaving Helen alone amidst hundreds of contemptuous stares. "Mom!" Ethan yelled as he was dragged past her. "Mom, help me!" Helen looked at her son, then at a wailing Jessica. She saw total ruin. No more status, no more money, no more respect. Security finally threw Ethan and Jessica out onto the hard, asphalt sidewalk of the hotel. Helen scrambled after them, nearly tripping on her gown. Outside, a heavy rain began to fall, lightning splitting the sky as if the universe itself was dramatizing their fall. Ethan lay sprawled in a puddle, his expensive tuxedo soaked and filthy. Jessica sat hugging her knees, her silver gown caked in mud. "This is all your fault," Ethan suddenly screamed, pointing at his mother's drenched face. You always spoiled Jessica. You were the one who said Amelia was stupid. Now we're ruined, Mom. Ruined. How dare you blame me? Helen shrieked back hysterically. You're the man who couldn't control his lust. If you had just been a little more patient until you secured the money, none of this would have happened. Shut up! Jessica screamed, clutching her stomach. I'm pregnant with your child, Ethan, and now I have a $5 million debt. I just want to die. In the midst of their pathetic, rain-soaked argument, a massive video screen on the hotel's exterior wall broadcast a live feed from inside the ballroom. On it, Amelia was raising a glass of champagne. Her face was serene, beautiful, and radiant. She was surrounded by business partners congratulating her. She looked like a queen who had just won a war without ever drawing a sword. Ethan looked up at the screen from the gutter, tears mixing with the rain on his face. He realized the woman on that screen, the woman he had wasted and betrayed, was the only precious thing he had ever had. And now she was as unreachable as a star in the sky, while he was nothing but a worm in the dirt. Inside the ballroom, Amelia sipped her drink. The champagne was sweet, but the taste of victory was far sweeter. Is it finished, ma'am? Ricky asked, standing beside her. Amelia glanced toward the now closed doors. Not yet, Ricky, she answered quietly. Making them poor is easy. The next part is letting them devour each other in that poverty. Let them experience the real world without my protection. Amelia turned her back to the door and walked toward her bright future, leaving her past to rot outside. 3 months later, a torrential downpour flooded a densely populated, low-income neighborhood on the outskirts of the city. In a narrow, muddy alley where sunlight rarely penetrated, there was a cramped, 10x 12-foot studio apartment. The walls were damp with mold, the paint was peeling, and the smell of an overflowing sewer permeated everything. This is where Ethan, Jessica, and Helen now lived. Ethan, can't you close that window properly? The rain is getting in. My mattress is soaked, Helen yelled. Her once arrogant voice was now hoarse and weak. She lay on a thin foam pad on the floor, her legs swollen from untreated gout. Ethan, sitting in a corner counting loose change, slammed the rotted wooden window shut. Just be patient, Mom. It's as closed as it's going to get. The wood is rotten, he snapped back. His face was gaunt, his eyes hollowed out with dark circles. The polished Ethan was gone, replaced by a bitter man worn down by daily stress. Where's the air conditioner? It's so hot. I can't take this heat, Helen moaned, having forgotten they no longer had one. A tiny fan in the corner only circulated the hot, humid air. From the bathroom, its door just a broken plastic shower curtain, Jessica emerged. Her belly was now visibly large, her pregnancy in its 5th month. Her face was dull and broken out from stress and hormones. Her luxury wardrobe had been sold at flea markets to make ends meet. Ethan, I'm out of prenatal vitamins, Jessica said coldly, sitting on the floor to stretch her aching legs. Give me some money. I need to go to the store. Ethan tossed a few crumpled dollar bills on the floor. That's all there is. Just buy regular milk. Don't even dream about those expensive vitamins. Are you crazy? Jessica threw the money back at him. This is your child, Ethan. Our child. Are you going to feed him garbage? You promised me a life of luxury. That was before you slapped Amelia. Before you and my mother got me fired and thrown out. Ethan exploded, standing up and pointing in her face. Get real, Jess. We're poor. That $5 million debt is accumulating interest every day. I work odd jobs and barely make $100 a day, which is gone after feeding you 2 complainers. Don't you dare blame me, Jessica shrieked, throwing a plastic cup against the wall. You're the idiot. You're a useless man. If you had been a little smarter at deceiving Amelia, we wouldn't be in this mess. They fought like this every day, blaming and cursing each other. The forbidden love they had once glorified as their destiny had rotted into pure hatred. In that tiny apartment, there was no privacy, no romance, only the stench of poverty and regret. Ethan stormed out, slamming the door, leaving his mother and his pregnant mistress crying inside. He needed air, even if the air in the alley was just as suffocating. Jessica's ego, a remnant of her modeling days, refused to let her take a job as a waitress or a cleaner. She believed her face was still a commodity. One morning, she tried to get a job as a promotional model for a liquor company. She borrowed a decent outfit from a neighbor and applied the last of her expired makeup. At the casting agency, the manager looked her up and down, from her resume to her pregnant belly. "Jessica Cole? You're pregnant?" "Yes, sir, but I can still stand for long hours. I really need this job," she pleaded. The manager laughed cynically. "Ma'am, aside from the pregnancy, are you aware that your name is on the industry-wide blacklist? That video of you at the plaza went viral globally. Our clients don't want their brands associated with, sorry to be blunt, an incestuous homewrecker." Jessica's face burned with shame. "But sir, that's in the past." "The past? The internet is forever. Just go home. No one in this industry will ever hire you again. You'd have better luck selling hot dogs on a street corner." Jessica was kicked out. She walked home under the hot sun, her feet swollen. She felt the baby kick. "Be quiet, you," she hissed at her own stomach, hitting it lightly. "It's because of you I'm stuck. Because of you I can't run away." Desperate, she tried one last resort, live streaming on a shady social media app, hoping some lonely man would send her virtual gifts. That night, in the dim apartment, she turned on her cracked phone camera. "Hey everyone, come chat with Siska," she cooed. Within seconds, the comments were flooded with hate. "Homewrecker alert. Isn't that the evil stepsister? Still has the nerve to show her face. Justice for Amelia. Pay your $5M debt. Disgusting. Pregnant with her brother-in-law's baby. I feel sorry for the kid. Having a demon for a mother." She received no gifts, only a barrage of mental abuse. Jessica's hands trembled as she read the comments. The digital world that once adored her beauty had become her cruelest judge. She threw her phone, and it went dark. She curled up in a corner, crying silently. Her career wasn't just dead, it was a rotting carcass, and the $5 million debt would haunt her for the rest of her life, ensuring she could never own anything in her name again. She was a slave to her own mistakes. Ethan finally swallowed his pride. He started driving for Uber using a friend's account, since his own had been banned due to the fraud charges Amelia had filed. He rented a beat-up car that was barely functional. One afternoon, he was stuck in gridlock traffic downtown. The sun beat down on his arm, now darkened from constant exposure. He was starving but had to save money for the car rental fee. He was eating a cheap, stale pastry. Next to him, a sleek Rolls-Royce Phantom pulled up. The windows were tinted, but Ethan knew it was the car of a mogul. He glanced over. The rear window lowered slightly. Ethan's heart stopped. Inside sat Amelia. His ex-wife looked radiant. She wore an elegant white blazer and was laughing softly into her phone. Her face was younger, fresher, and happier than he had ever seen it. There was no burden in her eyes. Next to her sat a handsome, distinguished man in a sharp suit. He was holding her hand, looking at her with pure adoration, a look Ethan had never given her. Ethan rolled down his own grimy window, wanting to scream, "Amelia! It's me, Ethan!" But the words caught in his throat. He saw his own reflection in the side mirror, unshaven, haggard, a loser. The light turned green. The Rolls-Royce glided away, leaving Ethan frozen. The exhaust from a bus in front of him filled his car, making him cough. A tear rolled down his cheek, landing on the pastry in his lap. He remembered the past. He used to sit in luxury cars with Amelia. He used to sleep in a comfortable bed. He used to have a wife who loved him for who he was, who even hid her wealth so he wouldn't feel insecure. "I was a fool," Ethan whispered, banging his fist on the steering wheel. "I threw away a diamond to pick up trash." Horns blared behind him. Ethan numbly pressed the accelerator, driving on with a regret that would haunt him for the rest of his life. He hadn't just lost money, he had lost the only person who had ever truly loved him. Helen's health deteriorated rapidly. Stress, poor poor diet and an unsanitary environment complicated her diabetes and high blood pressure. One night, she suffered a minor stroke that left one side of her body paralyzed. Ethan and Jessica had no money and, frankly, no desire to care for her. Her presence only added to the burden and the smell in their tiny apartment. Finally, under the pretense of getting her better care, Ethan took his mother to a state-run nursing facility, a free shelter for the destitute, with deplorable conditions. "Ethan, don't leave me here," Helen pleaded, her speech slurred. Tears streamed down her wrinkled face as she gripped his sleeve with her good hand. "It smells awful. I'm scared." Ethan gently pried her hand off. There was no sadness in his eyes, only exhaustion. "They have nurses here, Mom. You'll get 3 meals a day. We can barely eat at the apartment. I have to work. Jessica's about to give birth. Just stay here for now." "But Ethan, I'm your mother, the one who raised you, and you're the one who made me this way," Ethan hissed back, his voice low but sharp. "If you hadn't constantly insulted Amelia, if you hadn't encouraged my affair with Jessica, we wouldn't be here. Enjoy your old age, Mom. Consider this your new palace." Ethan turned and walked away, leaving his mother wailing his name in the grim hallway of the facility. Days turned into weeks. Helen lay in a ward with 20 other elderly people. None of her socialite friends visited. Her only entertainment was an old TV in the corner. One afternoon, a news report featured a familiar face. The headline read, "CEO of the Grandeur Group, Amelia Hayes, opens 5-star senior living facility for the underprivileged." On the screen, Amelia was smiling, cutting the ribbon on a beautiful, clean, modern facility. "I built this because I believe every elderly person deserves to live their final years with dignity," she told the reporters. Helen sobbed uncontrollably. If only she had treated Amelia with kindness, she would be sitting in a massage chair in that luxury home right now, cared for like a queen. But her arrogance had brought her here, to a ward that smelled of disinfectant, forgotten by the son she had spoiled, and cast aside by the daughter-in-law she had despised. Karma had arrived, and it sat beside her pillow every night. 1 year later, L'Etoile was once again the setting, but the atmosphere was different. Tonight, Amelia had booked the entire rooftop for a private celebration of the Grandeur Group's successful expansion into Europe. She stood at the edge of the balcony, a glass of champagne in hand, gazing at the starry New York sky. "A penny for your thoughts?" a deep voice asked. Amelia turned. Adrian, her business partner and now her fiancé, stood beside her. He was a mature, renowned architect who loved her for her intelligence, not her wealth. They had met on a project 6 months ago. Just remembering the past, Amelia smiled. "Downstairs, in that restaurant, I once felt like the most pathetic woman in the world. And now?" Adrian asked, wrapping an arm around her waist. "Now, I feel that justice has been served," Amelia replied. Ricky, her loyal head of security, approached them. "Pardon the interruption, Miss Hayes, Mr. Vance." "What is it, Ricky?" "Just the final monthly report on subjects E and J," Ricky said, using their code names. Amelia had requested periodic updates, not out of concern, but to ensure they never recovered. "Give me the short version," Amelia said, taking a sip of her drink. Subject E is still an Uber driver, now living in a shanty town by the railroad tracks after being evicted again. Subject J recently gave birth to a boy, but the baby is sickly due to poor prenatal nutrition. She now works as a dishwasher at a wholesale market, with the baby strapped to her back. And Subject H passed away this morning at the state facility. No family came to claim the body, so she was buried by the city. There was a moment of silence. Adrian tightened his embrace, offering her strength. Amelia sighed. She felt no sadness, nor did she feel joy. Just a neutral emptiness, a book finally closed. "Would you like me to send flowers?" Ricky asked hesitantly. Amelia shook her head firmly. "No need. Just send a prayer. It's the only thing that's free, and the only thing they deserve." "Understood, ma'am." "Closing the file permanently?" "Yes. Close it. Erase their names from our watch list. They are no longer relevant to my future." Ricky nodded respectfully and excused himself. Amelia looked back at the sky. Helen's death and the suffering of Ethan and Jessica were the end of a long karmic cycle. Life itself had punished them in the most brutal way, giving them a long, miserable existence to reflect on their mistakes. "Are you okay?" Adrian asked softly. Amelia looked at him and smiled a genuine, free, and hopeful smile. "I'm more than okay," she said. "I've forgiven the foolish woman I once was for choosing them. Now, I'm ready for my new life." She raised her glass to the night sky, to the past that became a lesson, and to the future that was her victory. Far below, in the cruel but just city, Ethan was likely weeping behind the wheel of his car, and Jessica was lamenting her fate in a filthy market. But up here, on the rooftop of L'Etoile, Amelia shone brightly. The queen had returned to her throne, and this time she would never step down again.